welcome to Excuse My ADHD, a podcast for adults with or who think they may have ADHD. I'm your host, Jeanette, and this is my journey. Hello, and welcome to Excuse My ADHD, episode number 11, New Year's Day. I'm your host, Jeanette, and I am navigating ADHD one distraction at a time. The new year is a time for new beginnings and for saying goodbye to the current year. Talking about resolutions and the ways this year will be better than the last. And this episode is about that and about how we need to take stock throughout the year and realize that our goals and priorities can and do change. What's important is that we're accomplishing the ideas behind the goals, such as self-improvement and physical or mental health. If we're sticking to those principles, then we've accomplished something and need to stop looking at what we failed to complete on our list and focus more on what we did that wasn't on the list and see that as a win instead of a failure. So if you are a first-time listener, thanks for tuning in, and if you're a returning listener, thanks for coming back. It's that time of year, the time when anything seems possible, when everything feels new, the time when you feel like you can start over and leave last year and all of its mistakes, disappointments, and heartache behind you. This is when we all resolve to do things. We make goals for ourselves, we plan. Some we accomplish, some we fail at, and others we do partway. Seems like getting fit and losing weight are always on the top of the list, right? Always some sort of self-improvement. This year's a little bit special because we're also saying goodbye to a decade and not just a year, which means more to reflect on. For me, this last decade's been a little bit crazy. I had twins. I had 2 cross-country moves, started a new job each time. But what I do want to do is make this next decade and this year more focused and follow through, I guess. I want to be in the best shape of my life physically because I want to be able to be active with my kids, to run races with them and do yoga together because now they're getting at the age where they can do those things with me. I want to be around and healthy when in 20 plus years or more, they have kids and make me a grandma. But more importantly, I want to continue to work on the structures and the systems that have been so important to making my life and my family's life easier. You know, like this last year was really big for me with experimenting on those. And I think I've found some. I just want to continue to find others because obviously with ADHD, we find something, it works for a while, we get bored and got to find something else. So that's where my focus is. I'm focusing on making my goals about fitness, which, you know, the generic go-to, and about self-improvement like anybody else. But why? Why do we do this? Why January 1? I was writing my resolutions and ended up down the why rabbit hole. You know, it's slippery slope because as we all know, once you veer off track or change focus, it's hard to get back to where we were, what we were doing. So what did I do? What any good ADHDer would do, of course. I started Googling and reading Wikipedia, but I won't bore you with everything I read. You can go do that for yourself. But I am going to geek out a little bit and share some stuff with you because I found it interesting. You may not, but I won't go for more than a couple short minutes, I promise. So apparently, you know, there's religious origins which date back as far as 4,000 years ago to the Babylonians. They, however, had a 12-day festival. Why don't we get a 12-day festival? That sounds like one hell of a festival, so why do we only do 1 day of celebrating? That's just not fair. The Sumerian population called it Akitu, which I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right. But it was a festival to celebrate the sowing of barley. It's not in January, so their new year was more like March and April. That was the Babylonian calendar, and we are on the Julian calendar. So ours is their March, April is our January. And for them, it was referred to as Nisanu. Again, not pronouncing it, which they also called Resatim or beginning of the year. I totally butchered that, but that you guys will forgive me. Their parliament would announce its new policy for the year, similar to how in the United States we have the State of the Union. It went on to be celebrated in the 3rd century CE in Syria, and then eventually made its way to Rome, where Caesar instituted January 1 as the first day of the year, in part to honor Janus, the Roman god of beginnings. And then Christian leaders temporarily changed this to December 25th and March 25th, which just seems really weird. They did that for more religious significance, but then moved it back in 1582 by Pope Gregory XIII. So apparently the new year wasn't always on January 1. But then there's also, there's other religious parallels. You have Lent, a time of sacrifice, which follows shortly after. Rosh Hashanah through Yom Kippur, it's expected that you reflect on your wrongdoings over the year and seek or offer forgiveness. Methodist resolutions are partially based on the Lenten sacrifices. So the one thing they all have in common, and even today with the different nations and cultures that celebrate New Year, is that it's a time for reflection and for new beginnings and self-improvement. That all being said, what the heck does any of this have to do with my episode today? Well, if you're still listening, which I hope you really are, it's because I think we all get lost in it. And having ADHD means a few things. 1, we're really good with coming up with grand ideas. 2, we're also really good about being excited about these ideas. 3, we even start out doing an awesome job at getting these goals started, probably even going out, buying things, joining gyms, and attending and start. And then, well, the problem is somewhere along the way, we forget. We get bored, we lose steam, we fail, stumble, don't get back up, get in a habit, then life happens, and we can't get started again, or any number of things. And I'm guilty of all of the above. I was going through my bullet journal and looking at my 2019 resolutions page to see what I had accomplished this year. Yeah, let me tell you, it wasn't much. The sad thing is, I was even careful to make them detailed with how I was going to do it. And I wasn't as vague as I usually am, like, oh, I'm going to lose weight, or oh, I'm going to do this. So here's my list. I'll read it to you. I said I would do 12 sewing projects with 1 per month, work 2 hours per weekend until done, with 1 hour on Saturday and Sunday. 0% of that was done. Said I would read 12 books, 1 per month, 6 nonfiction, 1 bio, 4 fiction, and 1 whatever I wanted. I finished Russell Barkley's Taking Charge of Adult ADHD. I read about 85% of Driven to Distraction by John Rady and Ed Hallowell, which is an awesome book. I just need to finish it. I started Becoming, Michelle Obama's biography. Got about 25% done. So overall, I'd say I probably did 2/6 of that one. I said I would do 96 hours of real estate courses to get my license. Said I would start in summer right after budget and formulation, and year end would over. Never started it. I said I would run 3 days per week, do yoga 4 days per week, and get my butt and biceps in shape. Yeah, tried and fell hard off that wagon, but I did start an Orange Theory Fitness membership for 6 months in December because they had a deal. So far, I love it, but it's not for everybody. So we'll see if I can make it the whole 6 months. So far, so good. I did a trip to Philly to visit my friends Andrea Morgan and Kerstein is what I had next. But Kerstein never called or texted me back, and yes, girl, I am calling you out. So I'm still going to call that one 100% done. I said 2 trips to Tennessee, 1 to visit each grandmother. I got that about 50% done. I did go visit one grandmother over Thanksgiving. I said I would do a full ADHD assessment and see a psychologist to help with tools, try stimulant medication. Okay, that one was 100% done. Oh, I failed hard at this one. Eat more and varied vegetables 2 times per day, fruit 1 time per day, for a total of 2 per day because I already have a banana in my smoothie. Yeah, that was very detailed, but I did not do that. I am not good at incorporating vegetables into my meals at all. I like some, but it's just hard for me to meal plan, which leads me to the next one. I said I would cook dinner 3 days per week, 1 day on the weekend. Yeah, that didn't really happen. I said I would meal prep and plan recipes and do grocery lists. I did do that. I did start using ClickList, so I wouldn't have to actually make my trips to the grocery. And if you can get your groceries delivered or where you can order them online and pick them up, that's the best thing ever. I absolutely hate going to the grocery store. I didn't do a weekly plan. I didn't use my crock pot 1 to 2 times per week. For ease and time saving, I literally wrote that down. And I didn't meal prep the night before. I said I would practice lettering, handwriting for minimum 1 hour per week. Yeah, I didn't do that. Schedule dates with my husband once a month. I'd say I probably got maybe 25-30% of that. We did dates. Paint class with my husband. That one's been on there for a couple years. We've just not gotten around to it. Said we'd run 3 5Ks. We started doing what they call this bluegrass trifecta, where I thought that would just knock it all out. And then the other option was to do the Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure. I got to do my 4-miler, my 10K. I had bronchitis, so that was a no-go. I did the 5K Midsummer Nights run, but that was it. So I did 2. So about 67%. So as you can see, I really didn't accomplish that much on that list. And for a little while, I sat staring at my list and I felt like a failure. And I got really down. And then I started thinking about, okay, so what did I actually do this year? And then I thought, you know what? I did accomplish something. Just this week, I went through most of the boxes in the basement, sorted the items into shred, keep, toss, Goodwill piles. I actually threw away the toss pile. I dropped off the actual Goodwill items from that pile the same day. As many of you know, that crap can sit in your car for weeks and you can forget about it. Or months, or a year. Whatever. And then typically I would go downstairs and just stare at everything. And my husband's been asking me forever, like 6 years and 2 moves to do this. And I've been finding something else to do because I would get overwhelmed. And then with the kids had basketball camp this week. So for 3 days, it was just me in the house and I was determined to make progress. And I only have a handful of things left to go through and a ton of toys to get rid of. But I got rid of something like 5 or more boxes of stuff, and I tried to organize everything. So I have all of our pictures in one place together from the 10 or different boxes that I found them in. Things that I had forgotten about that I was really excited to find. And the thing now is I'm at the point where I usually run out of steam because I've done most of the work. I even moved the boxes from being spread out to where the so-called storage area will be when we decide to finish our basement. So I have a handful of things left to do, like I said, and I need to figure out what to do with them. And right now they're just sitting down there. They've been sitting down there for a couple days because I have been doing some other things, but I haven't forgotten about it. And once I get this episode done, then that's next on my list. I had to prioritize things. But that was kind of always the deal, was to, my husband even asked me, he's like, why don't you just go through 1 box a week? And for years I didn't. So that is a huge accomplishment. So I'm feeling really good about that for my whole year alone, that work that I did this week. And then something I never in a million years thought I would do. I started a podcast. And I've consistently published content for 11 episodes. Yes, I have been a day late on one or two, but I never saw this as even the slightest possibility of something I would do. But I did it nonetheless. I took my time with this one. See, this idea started in my head sometime February, March, and it was one of those crazy, ADHD ideas that sounds really cool and awesome, but you never really get anywhere with it. Obviously, that's not what happened here. But the hardest part was I made myself slow down, which was excruciating because I wanted to run with it. But I knew that if I did, it wouldn't get done. So I took my time, studied and learned. I made sure I was reading articles, watching videos, comparing notes, etc. I started planning in my bullet journal how I wanted it to go, what I needed to do, just everything. And then I did it. I jumped and, well, here we are. Long story short, anyway. I mean, obviously there was some procrastination in there because I didn't launch until August for sure. And some too much trying to be perfect. And I'm trying to take things like the two I just told you about and remember that even though I didn't accomplish what was on my list, it's okay to change the list, which is pretty much what I did. I replaced real estate courses with the startup of my podcast. I've put in way more than 96 hours for this. I set up my own website. I learned how to edit and add tracks to episodes. So many things I didn't know how to do before. I went to an ADHD conference that wasn't on my list, but it was added later and even helped me cross off an item because it was in Philly where I'd already planned to visit my friends. And it's oh so easy to let ourselves sink into that failure mode, that we forget to see the good we've accomplished because it isn't something we're accustomed to. We're used to failing and letting others and ourselves down. We don't know how to accept compliments or accolades and are awkward when we're congratulated for something. Granted, okay, maybe not everyone, but I know I am, and I venture to guess that I'm not alone in this. But what I'm trying very hard to do, and maybe I should make it a resolution for 2020, is to be more accepting of myself and acknowledging of my accomplishments and to quit minimalizing the work and things that I do and start acknowledging that, yeah, sometimes the things that I accomplish are hard. And I did a damn good job at whatever it is. This year, as I thought of them, I typed my new resolutions into my phone notes app. My system, which works for me and helps me remember things, may seem like overkill to others, is that since I don't always have my journal attached to my hip, but I do have my phone, I put things in my notes app, then transfer to my bullet journal later. So, what I've found is that typing it into my phone doesn't really help me remember, but putting it in my journal backs up the thought, and the writing of it helps with my working memory. So tonight I sat here and added them to my new journal, and I'm looking at my 2019 versus my 2020 side by side. And there's some things that are the same, but there's, many of them are different because life changed throughout the year. So of course, this year's are going to be different. And as life happens, we have to adapt and adjust, which I feel like is something we're pretty good at because there's so much chaos around us all the time that we're adapting daily. Instead of thinking of this as the commandments of 2020, these resolutions, I'm going to think of them more as a blueprint for my year or a map for the direction I want my year to go. Sometimes blueprints change. You want to move a door or take a door out and leave something open. So you add a stop to your trip because you will need to go to the bathroom or you're hungry and you want to stop. What's important is that we're continuously working on ourselves, whether it's to be physically or mentally healthier or both. If it's to donate more to charity, yell less, and spend more time with our kids, whatever the idea is, to keep going. Like Dory says, just keep swimming. And there are going to be times when that alarm goes off in the morning and you are not, like, seriously, you're so comfortable, you cannot see dragging yourself out of bed to go to work, let alone get up early and go to the gym. Because believe me, I've been there since I started this workout that I'm doing. But you're going to do it anyway. And now you may say, screw this once or twice and not go. But as long as you get up the next time, you haven't failed because you kept swimming. This is the struggle for us all year. What our defective executive functions make so difficult for us. What are my resolutions for 2020, you ask? Okay, well, let's start. Again, I said I want to complete the bluegrass trifecta since I didn't get to last year, and it made me very angry because I wanted my medal. So I got to do the 4-miler, the 10K, the 5K, and then I'm going to do an additional 5 or 10K. So if I do a 10K this year, this will be my first time ever doing one. Last year was my first time doing a 4-mile race. If I could do 2 this year, that would be crazy awesome. I also want to finish a 5K in less than 38 minutes. Yeah, I know. I'm a slow jogger. It's okay. At least I'm out there and I'm doing it. I want to eat healthier, so I'm not going to put as much pressure. I just want to start with, say, I want to eat less processed foods and focus more on fresher foods. So one way to do this is, and I've been told this a couple of times, and it's true, is if you look at the way grocery stores are set up, it's the outside of the store is where you want to go. That's where your fresh meats, your fruits, your vegetables, things like that. And then as you go to the center aisles, that's where all of the processed foods are, chips and candies and cookies and crackers and cereals, all of that stuff. So that's going to be hard, but I'm going to try and at least start incorporating more of the fresh food and try and stay away from the processed. I want to finally finish my Invisalign braces and get my retainer. So I got my Invisalign in 2015, 2016. I did a whole round, and then I had to do another round, and then we moved, and I never finished it. So a little behind on that. I want to reach 10,000 downloads, and hopefully with your guys' help, I could do this one. I want to read 6 books. So 12 may have been a little ambitious for me last year, but I figure if I read 30 minutes a day, I can finish my Michelle Obama bio, finish Driven to Distraction. I want to read The Alchemist. I want to read the book Why Won't Anyone Play With Me? That book is an ADHD book. I will post the link and the author online. I'll put that online. And then I've got, You're a Badass. It's another book that I have. And the last one, I don't know yet what I want to read. But I've got several upstairs I want to get into. Start a nightly gratitude practice with the whole family. So if you've listened before, you know that I spoke with Heather Vickery, and she has a book that came out December 3rd that is a family gratitude journal. So I'm ordering those for all of us, and I want us to do those together as a family because I think my kids need to have more gratitude in their lives. I'm going to implement a better AM PM routine. So we've been working on one with timers, but I want to actually have charts to have that visual for my kids so they can be more self-sufficient and add some ownership. So I'm going to get some time timers to help. I know some people, another podcaster who they love them and use them all the time. So I'm going to try one out. I want to get to a size 6 by May or around 140 pounds. So this is something I never thought I would see again, but I'm so close. I can almost touch it. I'm like 15 pounds to go. I want to make another trip to Tennessee to see the grandma I didn't see. 3 sewing projects instead of 12. That was way too ambitious, and I realized that. So I'm going to try 3. I have a sewing machine. I need to use it. That was another one of those, grand ideas that I'm going to make work. So, and then I want to make smaller monthly and weekly goals in my journal as I go. And I think by taking these bigger ones and chopping them down per week or per month, that'll help me get to that big accomplishment. So, what do you think of my current draft of resolutions? What are yours? Tell me I want to know what yours are for 2020. I think I'm going to start a thread, and I want to hear what everybody wants to do this year. And this leads me to the idea that I mentioned I had last episode that I was so super excited about. I've been thinking about this for a while. So I know I've been really quiet on social media since November, and I apologize. I've been feeling really burnt out and overwhelmed with the whole social media thing. Knowing what to post, when to post, where to post, it's confusing and it's overwhelming. And with everything else going on, I've been burnt out. So I'm trying to regroup and focus on other things and hope that the social media part will follow. So as I was writing my resolutions, I thought about how I've been a part of 2 different accountability groups this year. And I thought, how great would it be to start an accountability group with you guys? I want us all to have the best chance possible at achieving our 2020 goals. So what better way to do that than be accountable to somebody else? Have someone that can be your cheerleader, cheering you on and helping you when you feel down and discouraged and don't know what to do next. We are all great at seeing things in ways that other people's don't, and I think that even includes with each other. I haven't worked out all of the details yet, but this is something I would like to start either this spring and have maybe 2 to 3 groups through the year. And at the end of the year, each group would do a final check-in to see what we accomplished, what we didn't, and what we changed. So I'd like to have about 10 people per group. We would do, maybe starting in March, another in June, and the final maybe in September or something. We would have bi-weekly video conferencing, and each group would be 8 sessions long, and have a monthly check-in after the 8 sessions in a private group online where we can continue to support each other from the accountability groups. So if you're interested in this idea at all, please email me. Send me a message through the contact form in my website. Hit me up on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. And as I start working out the details and logistics, I'll start posting more and I'll let you know. But for now, that's kind of all that I have. And I hope you will be as excited and interested as I am. See you soon. Thank you for listening to Excuse My ADHD. If you like what you hear, don't forget to please subscribe, rate, and leave an awesome review. Show notes and social media links are available at www.excusemyadhd.com. Until next time.